Tell us your name and tell us about your project.
Well, my name is Edwin Hubble, and a lot of my work was in the field of astronomy.
What were you guys trying to find or to do?
What we found was that the universe as a whole, all the galaxies inside of it, is always expanding, it's always growing, but specifically from each galaxy's point of view, all the other galaxies are moving away from it, and they're all moving away from each other. Thus, the universe is expanding. And we also found the constant that describes the rate at which they are moving away from each other.
Where did the project or experiment occur?
Most of my work, as far as this field goes, happened at the Mount Wilson Observatory and the Palomar Observatory, and both of these places are in California.
What other significant events were happening around the world at this time?
Well, World War I had just ended, and there was Warren Harding was president in the early 20s. Calvin Coolidge was president right after him, and then Herbert Hoover was the president at the end of the 20s. Shortly after this, in 1929, the stock market crashed, and that's what caused the Great Depression. And then, on top of all of that, there was a dust bowl that lasted almost 10 years and was devastating for those that were trying to grow crops in this time period. And it was worse in different areas, but as a whole, it was very bad.
Who else was involved in the project?
Milton Humason was my colleague, and he was a pretty interesting guy. He never finished high school, and he helped actually build the Mount Wilson Observatory. And then later on, he ended up being the custodian there. Since he was always around as the custodian, he was always in and out and just kind of there behind the scenes. He got to be familiar with the work that we're doing, and soon he became good friends with us. And the next thing you knew, he was a member of the team. My other colleague, Vesto Slifer, he and I mostly worked on the redshift and the Doppler effect, kind of fine-tuning the exact values for the Hubble constant as it pertains to redshift and Doppler effect.
What was your role in the project?
My personal role was a lot of work that concerned Hubble's law and constant.
What impact did your project have on the physics community?
Our work, what it did, it proved that the universe is expanding. All the galaxies that are in the universe are moving away from each other, especially when you look at it from the point of view of each of the galaxies. I determined the constant, which I guess they named it after me because it's called Hubble's constant, that they determined the exact value for that constant of which the galaxies are moving away from each other. And this is what is an example of Doppler shift. And the Doppler shift is, like, if you look at a duck swimming towards you, all the ripples in front of it are really close together. But if you look at a duck swimming away from you, the ripples are further apart. So if it's swimming towards you, it looks like it's moving faster than it is compared to when it's moving away from you, when it looks like it's moving slower than it is. And if you look at these ripples as it pertains to the light spectrum, if you see a galaxy far, far away through your telescope, when it's moving away from you, which all the galaxies are, you see like it has a red tail behind it, and that's what we called it, the red shift, because all the wavelengths of the light as it's going away from you it produces a wavelength of light that is red. The constant, this Hubble constant that we determined, the value of it is around 72 kilometers per second for every megaparsec in distance, and some people are still kind of arguing about it, but that's within about 5%. This is useful to the physics community because it's real hard to determine the exact distance, how far away a galaxy is, because most tape measures aren't that long. But if you use the equation V equals h times d, with h being the constant, Hubble's constant, v being velocity, and then you can solve for the distance, d, by plugging in velocity, because it's easier to measure velocity than it is distance. And this is an example of Hubble's law.
Did you always want to become an astronomer?
Well, when I was young, when I was growing up, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I loved basketball and boxing. I grew up playing those sports. After high school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I did receive a scholarship to the University of Chicago from my principal in high school. There I studied math and astronomy, and I got my degree in it. My father, he wasn't real keen on me studying astronomy. He wanted me to go more the route of being a lawyer, so he encouraged me to do that. And after I graduated from the University of Chicago, I then went to Oxford, and there I studied law. Um, I studied law there, and then came back to America, passed my bar exam, and I was a lawyer for about a year. And I discovered that it really wasn't my calling. It's not what I wanted to do, so I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life doing that. So I was kind of getting my bearings after deciding not to do law. I was a teacher at a high school in Indiana, and there I taught math, physics, and Spanish. And also I was hired to coach basketball there as well while I was a teacher. After a year of doing that, I decided that my passion was really in astronomy. I just loved it. And so I went back to the University of Chicago and studied further astronomy. At the end, and there I received my doctorate. After I got my doctorate, I actually had an offer to work at the Mount Wilson Observatory in California, and I was super excited. And then right after I turned in my thesis and finished up my doctorate, I decided it was at the beginning, and it was in 1917, which is when World War I was kind of getting heated. So I ended up going, served my country in France, and I was very fortunate, and I was able to come back here and continue. And right after the war, right after I got back, there was still an opportunity open at Mount Wilson Observatory, and I took it, and that's where all my work started.